Up to the Board of Appeals to take action, have some discussion amongst ourselves. So I'll start with some of my own thoughts, and then I'll invite some of my colleagues to add their own. I'm persuaded to the points that have been raised on appeal in this case. I believe that public input to decisions is valuable. It is time-consuming. It takes effort. It takes money to be here. But the public, in my experience on the Board of Appeals, has on many occasions brought new perspective, new information, new evidence that the experts sometimes miss. And so I think that that's important to the public process. I'm aware peripherally that the Planning Commission is preparing to change their rules of procedure. I've been told that those rules of procedure will explicitly allow public input in decisions like this in the future, and I think that that's wonderful. I haven't read them. I don't know that they've been adopted, but I will accept that that's true, and I think that that reflects an acknowledgement by the county that that's the right thing to do for subdivision plans. And I would agree that that's true. And, you know, I think that the people who came to our hearing when we first talked about this docket and this evening put a lot of thought into articulating their positions very well, and I would like to thank those who came for doing that. It is important when a body like the Board of Appeals or the Planning Commission has to make a determination that the testimony from the public be direct, that it be on point, that it not take a long walk through the woods, so to speak, but that it get to the heart of why it matters to the citizens. And I want to thank those who came for doing that tonight. You did a good job, and I thank you for that. On to the second issue raised on appeal. There was the question of whether the environmental impacts of the project and the traffic and safety concerns were properly evaluated and addressed by the Planning Commission. In my own preparation for the first hearing, I did reading of the Adequate Public Facilities Manual, and that informed a number of my questions at the start of this hearing. And it is explicit in our own Adequate Public Facilities Manual that we will evaluate not only intersections but roadways. And so I believe it was a clear error that was not done. I don't believe that it's the staff's job to do that. I believe that's the applicant's job. But I believe that it was a mistake to proceed with the approval without that information. Having previously lived on Billingsley Road for a decade, I can appreciate that Billingsley Road has its challenges, and if anybody were to search the news articles over the past decade around Billingsley Road, there would be a lot more to read. But adding a large neighborhood to Billingsley Road in the condition it's in is an obvious question. And I was struck as I watched the previous Planning Commission hearings that members who ultimately did vote to approve the project did raise those very same questions. They raised them in the first hearing, they raised them in the second hearing, and so it is unfortunate that there was not any evaluation of the congestion and the safety of the roadway itself apart from the intersections. And so I believe that there was an error on that regard as well. You know, I think this question about who ultimately should be the arbiter of the environment and what is good or bad for the environment is a really good question, and I'm not going to presume to know the answer to that. I think the staff, in my opinion, works very hard to try to give sound advice to the boards who make these decisions, and I have always been impressed by the level of detail that I have seen. Frankly, I think that given the objective of building a neighborhood, this developer did as much as they could to make it as friendly a neighborhood as it could be to the environment, given the objective of building a neighborhood. But I don't know that I am able to make a determination about the environmental impacts being any on their own as being a reason to overturn the decision, but I believe that the public has provided some additional input. I believe that the appellant provided additional input, and I think that the Planning Commission should have heard that, and that would have helped them make the best decision. And to the extent, as we peeled the onion about how we determine which intersections are evaluated and roads are evaluated, it seems also clear to me that simply evaluating intersections that don't exist, which is what was done in this case, and evaluating one possible of two outlets is not adequate. Again, perhaps it's obvious to me because I traveled that roadway frequently, but the intersection of Billingsley and Bennsville will certainly have impacts from a project like this. And it's my understanding that there are other major subdivisions that are already in an approved state that will be adding traffic to that already troubled intersection. So, from my own opinion here, again, I'm persuaded. I'm persuaded that there were errors made. I'm persuaded that the wrong decision was arrived at. And so, for me, the next question is, what do we do about it? And I think that deserves some additional discussion, but I wanted to just give an opportunity for my colleagues to weigh in with their own thoughts.
Thank you very much.